Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep, brought to you by MarketFi. I'm your co-host, Joel L. Connon, along with Brianna Valesky, and we have Annie Logue on the line. She's a consulting analyst, author of Day Trading for Dummies, also Emerging Market for Dummies, Socially Responsible Investment for Dummies. You really like this dummy theme, huh, Annie?
Well, actually, the book I'm working on now is for their competitor, is for the Idiot's Guide series. I'm working on the Complete Idiot's Guide to Option Trading, and if you or any of your listeners have questions that you think I should address in the book, I would love to hear them.
How about you? I just send you all my weekly option trades, and you just do a chapter by chapter analysis of it.
Well, okay.
I do get a few good ones in there. Well, I mean, I think we can start out with this topic, get some suggestions for from the room, and boy oh boy, if the weeklies, you got to talk about how enticing the weeklies are, but how a lot of times, moves will happen. A stock is pinned on that Friday, and then once, the following Monday, you get that anticipated move. So that's one thing you can talk about is, giving yourself a little bit of time going against the big market makers, and then also just paying up the premium. Also, having a catalyst for the stock sometimes, and I can speak to this, just a technical formation that you like is not enough. If you're going to catch a big move in the weeklies, you need a catalyst. So if there's anything else in the people in the chat comes up with any other suggestions for Annie on this topic, we can touch on it again at the end of the show. Last time you were on, you're talking about American Apparel here. And did they get rid of Dove Sharney? He's did they kick him out, or is he still around?
He's still fighting. And that's one reason I like this stock for day traders, because it's low priced and there's a lot of wacky news that keeps coming out, and that creates a lot more activity. I mean, retail stocks in general, you have a lot of news flow, not only because of how people are following them, but because they're releasing sales comps every month. So, you have more scheduled news than just quarterly earnings, right? Plus you have a lot of speculation. You have, discussions of holiday sales, discussion of trends. So news flow creates opportunities, right? And that is good. So with American Apparel, because Dov Charney has more or less been forced out, but he is still suing, he's still fighting, there's still a lot of back and forth, but the company is still in operation. So you sort of have two layers of news flow that you can watch, and that makes for better entrances and exits because you have some volume there. And I think, longer term, it is a company that will probably emerge from all of this. Radio Shack was another I had been following. Radio Shack has emerged in a form, but it's been acquired. It's now private. It's Sprint retail stores, whatever. I think American Apparel could be standalone. It could be a nice acquisition for somebody, but it's going to depend on resolving some of these ownership issues and some of these management issues. But again, if you're a day trader, that gives you stuff to hang on to.
Yeah, so you think there's some hope? I mean, I know they have some stores in some pretty big areas and stuff. They just kind of had their heyday and now fading. So you still think there's some hope? I mean, what about all the people with what was it, American Airlines that supposedly went bankrupt, right? And boy, if you turned around and held on to those shares, I know they traded in the off-exchange market, but all right, well that is something that that we'll definitely keep an eye on here. Moving on from day trading, lower price stocks. What's your takes on the euro and the dollar?
Well, the euro is so cheap right now. Might get cheaper. And I think, so one simple thing is if you're thinking about places to go on vacation, this is a very cheap time to go to Europe, and the cheapest time it's been in a long time, especially when you look at countries like Spain, Italy, Greece that have economic slowdowns on top of the cheap euro, right? And there's a retail company that I think is really interesting for people who are paying attention to the euro. It's more, it's not really a day trader stock so much because it's trading as American depository shares, but it is Industria de Diseño, or Inditex, Inditex. The OTC symbol is IDEXY. It is one of the largest retailers in the world, but it has very few stores in the United States. It operates in the U.S. It has a brand called Zara, Z-A-R-A, that competes with, say, H&M in that kind of high fashion, low cost clothing. That turns over quickly, not necessarily well made, but you wear it till it falls apart because it's so stylish. You won't care if it falls apart because then it's out of style, right? Almost all of their stores are in Europe. They operate under several different brands in Europe, and because of that, it is almost a pure play on the euro. And the cheap euro is actually going to help them. It's going to help them in their international expansion because it's going to mean they can enter markets with even lower costs of goods than they could otherwise. And because they're generally selling less expensive clothing, that will help them stay competitive in countries with economic problems. And it's one you want to get out of as the Europe strengthens. But for now, it's very attractive, and it does track the euro fairly closely. And you're getting not only a play on the euro, but you are getting a pretty good business, one that's expanding in the U.S., expanding into China. A lot of that expansion is driven by a desire to diversify their currency base. And again, the low cost will help them. And you're getting a company that is looking at huge long-term growth opportunities because they've been so geographically concentrated. So I think it's a really interesting one to watch this summer. With the euro in general, I think it can certainly go lower. I think, if you're interested in day trading currencies, because there's going to be constant news flow this summer, it would be a very good one to put up on your screen and pay attention to. The euro itself, because we're looking at, continued problems with Greece that are very ugly, and continued tensions over problems in Greece. And then the Guardian newspaper in the UK last week accidentally received a misdirected email from the Bank of England. It was an email that was supposed to be for internal use only, and somebody with their autofill on the address ended up sending it to a reporter. That apparently the Bank of England has been doing a lot of research in how to prepare England, the UK, to get out of the European Union. Now, the UK is not on the euro, but the UK is one of the larger and stronger economies in the European Union, and for them to leave would be another serious blow on top of the problems with Greece. So,
okay, well, we'll keep an eye on that. I mean, boy, oh boy, I wish you were on the show a couple months ago or back in early March. This thing hit a low of 1452. Hit 1660, had a little bit of a pullback, and kind of getting a similar kind of thing here, Annie. You hit 17.04, now you pull back to 16 and change. Do you have any long-term price target for this, or is it pretty much euro dependent?
What, for Inditex?
Yeah.
You know what? I could see it going up to 30 by the end of the year.
Nice call.
But that is going to depend on successful opening of stores overseas, and it's going to depend on the Europe staying low, but not disastrous.
I gotcha. Can
Okay.
we do you have your charts up there? Can we ask you about some other retail stocks since you seem to follow
Sure.
this? Okay. All
Sure.
right. Coming out of the chat here from SF Bright G. He wants to ask about Target, the French retail Target. See, yes,
Target. Well, they're cleaning things up after their disaster in
Canada.
Canada. Yeah. So it's probably good that they got that behind them. I think Target's problem, it's a good basic company. People, like them. They go to Target, do their Target run, spend too much money. I do think, though, that their their initial idea of the cheap clothing but high design, they have a lot of competitors in that area. They have, their Lily Pulitzer line was a success from a sales standpoint, but a disaster from a marketing standpoint because you had all the eBay sellers come in, snap up all the merchandise. So the merchandise is sitting on eBay where nobody wants to buy it, and that was a lot of potential traffic for the stores that they lost. So the good news is they're cleaning up Canada. The bad, if we're thinking longer term, the bad news is their basic fast fashion idea, or, high design idea. They have a lot of competition, and the stock's already had a huge run. I'm not really sure how much
Well,
further it can go.
it got slashed off earnings here, and kind of a nice formation here if you're a gap trader. The
Uh-huh.
bad news took it down from 79.81. You made a low at 76.46, and that was it. You came back up and you filled the gap here in the trading. You had a gap up to 79.73. 3 days ago, you hit the 79.97 level, so it gets back above 80. SF Bright G, I think you get interested in that. It looks like filled the gap and could be coming to test the validity of this down move here or
Yeah.
of the rally. Walmart, that stock been out of favor here for quite some time. Had this unprecedented run at the end of last year. I mean, Walmart moved like
Mhm.
Walmart does. Now it's giving it all back. Wow, back here at 74.90. I didn't even think. Yeah,
Yeah.
this thing really got shellacked after earnings. What's your take on Walmart?
Well, Walmart, they are countercyclical in that when the economy is bad, people shop there, and when the economy is good, people start shopping somewhere else because Walmart's, everyday low prices, which is good, except that a lot of their stuff is not particularly well made, like their clothing and things like that. So people who could afford to go elsewhere start to. The other pressure Walmart has is pressure over minimum wage increases. They're already operating with a very thin margin, and the company, it's interesting. The company has never really opposed a national minimum wage increase because their argument is that they'll have to pay more, but their customers will be making more money because, again, their typical customer is lower income. But they have been opposed to a lot of regional minimum wage increases because those start to create disproportions between, say, if they're located in one suburb and the next suburb over doesn't have the minimum wage, then they have a disadvantage there. So there's going to be a lot of news because of that. But I think the company is going to be under some pressure. Again, they would be under pressure anyway just because the economy is improving, because people will switch away from shopping there.
One
So,
more for you in the retail sector, PVH, Philip Van Heusen.
I do not know that one as well as I probably should.
I'm looking at this one. Kind of quiet trade here. We've come hard off the 125 level. I
Yeah.
could be getting a nice move here, SF
Oh,
Bright.
yeah.
We several lows and kind of trade the range here. I think you need to go back all the way to over the last 2 weeks or so, you've had a nice range from 102.12, the upper end of the range, 106.5, kind of
Yeah.
smack dab in the middle here, maybe a clear 106. You get a chance for something on the upside. So, Annie, before you let us go, just tell us what the inspiration was behind your new book that you're working on, and well, I guess you did the Dummies, and now you're switching to Idiots here. So, give us a little background on your new book.
Yeah, no particular reason for the switch except that the offer came from one company and not the other, because they're both good companies. So, but what's interesting about the options business is so much of that has changed in very recent years because of the decline of floor trading. I mean, the Chicago exchanges fought to keep floor trading as long as they possibly could, and they've more or less admitted defeat, but that has changed a lot of the strategies. It's changed a lot of the basic guidelines that people used to have when they were trading derivatives, because a lot of the oldish rules were based on the assumption that you still had people on the floor executing, and that you had people on the floor sometimes playing games with the trading, or who were more in touch with the market, and that's gone. So in some ways it's a more level playing field. On the other hand, because so much more trading is electronic, you have to think about strategies in ways that maybe people couldn't, even 5 years ago. So that's really where a lot of the impetus is for coming up with a new guide to options trading. It's interesting because in the equities market, in the currency markets, the floor trading's been gone forever, but the Board of Trade, the CBO, the Merck, they really fought hard for it.
Okay. All right. Annie Logue. She is the author of Day Trading for Dummies, written a few other books as well. Annie, thanks a lot. Covered a lot of good topics here. We'll keep an eye on those stocks that you mentioned, and we hope to have you on again soon.
Okay, thank you so much. It's always fun to be here.